they're waiting and we're waiting and nothing's happening. It's not even a shoot in the sky explode firework. It's just one of the little sparklers.
Welcome to A Zero's Journey. I am CMB.
I'm Kaelstrom.
And here today we are talking about the co-op platformer Bokura. It is a mandatory co-op game. You do need to have a second person, kind of like It Takes Two.
You have to have a friend.
You do, a friend, a partner, anybody who's willing to play. It's not a long game. I believe it took us just under 5 hours for one playthrough.
But we did it in like 4 sittings because I am not a puzzle player. And there were a couple of times where I just had to be like, I need to step away.
Yes, there are a lot of puzzles. They're not intensely hard. They just require a bit of communication, which I think is also one of the themes of the story. I like that the gameplay reinforces kind of some of the things that you see, the interactions between the characters. But there is a trigger warning here it's very brief. It's sexual assault, sexual violence. Just talking about it doesn't show anything, so if anybody's uncomfortable with that, just be aware, but it's just a quick talking point.
There's also mental health themes.
Yeah.
So it is very dark. Just beware.
Do we want to do like a story breakdown without spoilers?
Okay. How do we do this without spoilers?
Here, let me break it down like this. I'll just do a quick,
I guess you got it.
Just a quick synopsis. Basically, the story centers around 2 children running away from home, traveling through a mountain. They go through a traumatic event, and when they both wake up, they are seeing the same environment, but from 2 different perspectives. They're seeing the world through 2 separate lenses. So one sees it as a robotic world, kind of futuristic, and the other one sees it, all the characters are animals, it's very bright, and so they're seeing 2 different environments, but they're in the same location, and the way they interact with those worlds then becomes different. And so you're taking them on this platforming journey across this mountain, but you have to help each other out because you're seeing two different perspectives. Anyway, so that's the spoiler-free what Bokura is about. It's, solving puzzles with 2 characters seeing the world differently.
So if you haven't played this game and you don't want spoilers, please leave now.
Yeah. So now we get into all the endings of the story and all the story beats that you hit throughout.
But don't forget to like and subscribe and come back after you play it.
Yes.
if you wanted to.
Come back and get an explanation. Again, it's not a long game. You won't. It's a good sit down with a partner for a couple hours.
And you only paid for 1 copy, right?
No, I think I got 1 copy from a key, and then I bought the other copy for you.
Oh,
so you do need 2 separate copies.
Because it was weird the way it presented to me in Steam. It said that I had been gifted a subscription to the game.
I think I gifted you your own copy. I'm not sure why it said that.
Okay.
I think you do need to buy 2 separate copies.
Let me
Okay.
get the people the right information. You need 2 copies. Okay.
How much is it?
Normally it is $5.49.
Okay. So $5 a piece, $5.50 a piece. I'd say it's about $1 an hour, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for each person.
That's about how I look at some of those $60 games. If I'm going to get 60 hours in it, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But if I'm only going to get 20 hours in it, I don't know about that.
This one was worth the price of admission. Now to get into the story with spoilers. So you started off, the opening scene is an adult. You're seeing the characters as adults. You see one person.
Yeah.
You see a character on the subway reminiscing about their past. I like at the beginning, right off the bat, they're trying to hit the nostalgia for, I think, the group of people that they think are going to be playing it, because they have a Pokemon in a Pokemon game in their universe.
Pac-Man.
Called Pac-Man. It felt like they were talking to me. He's playing Pac-Man. He's reminiscing about playing the original versions as a child, the green and red, which is what Japan got with the original Pokemon, was a green and a red version. America got green and blue, or red and blue, but neither here nor there, sort of.
But then it really spoke to you.
But yeah, so that got my attention. But he's reminiscing about a childhood friend that he's lost connection with and wondering what they're doing. And then he starts flashing back to the summer that, this big event happened where the game takes place.
after it calls you out as an adult living a soulless life and just trying to dissociate through like games and media.
Yeah,
That hurt a lot.
You start off as a pretty downtrodden adult. You're disillusioned with the world, not feeling too great about things, and sounds like you spend most of your time reminiscing. This lonely train ride gives you a lot of time to think, at least 5 hours.
Yes, so that's the ordinary world. That's the part of the hero's journey that we're starting with for this game. And then as you go into the Wayback Machine of your brain and your memories, you get the call to adventure where you get introduced to the friends, and what they decided to do one day was that the one kid was feeling like he wanted to run away from home because he had a family life he didn't enjoy and felt kind of underappreciated. The other kid just wanted to be a good friend to him, and they wanted to run away to the mountains. There was a statue in the distance, and they wanted to blow it up. Young boys, we just want to blow it up.
And so you get little hints about that the two characters that you're playing come from different backgrounds.
Right.
And you can see it by the way they discuss their home life, and they're a little bit confused about one another's perspectives. So just to kind of get this out of the way, because it drops little hints along the way. Basically, one boy comes from a background with a single hardworking mother. He doesn't see his mother a lot, but she tries to provide for him the best that she can. Whereas the other boy has two parents that are together. And you gather that they're kind of an affluent family, and he kind of gets, all the things that he needs. But he gets the sense that his parents don't give him very much love. He doesn't feel loved. So they come from two different backgrounds. One of the boys tries to provide for the other. He buys him a copy of the Pac-Man games.
He offers. The other kid doesn't want to take it.
Right. So one kid's trying to use the money and stuff that he has to provide for his other friend, who comes from what he feels is a more loving home, with a single parent where they don't have as much money. She doesn't have as much money to provide for her son. So you start seeing those differences between the boys, and it's kind of important as the story goes on. So we get that call to adventure, the next step on the hero's journey, where they decide to climb this mountain. One of them has a box of fireworks where they want to blow up the statue of the mayor at the top of the mountain is their goal.
Oh, shit.
Are you putting some of the story together again? Yeah.
The mayor is the affluent kid's father.
Yes. So we don't find that until much later on.
Oh.
It's fine. I think it's okay.
Well, we did tell you there were spoilers, so that's coming. So normally there would be a refusal of the call and then a meeting the mentor next in like most hero's journey based stories, but in this case there's not really a refusal. Both the kids are like, yeah, let's go, we'll do this, and then there's not really a mentor. You just have each other to get through the puzzles. Yeah,
there's a little bit of hesitation. So the more affluent child, the one with his parents are together, they have money, but he's not as loved. I think he's the one that wants to go blow up the statue for reasons that you find out later, is because of the mayor. And so the other boy isn't as keen on it, but it's more that he wants to spend time with his friend. And so if that's what gets them together, he's going to join him. He's going to stick with him through it. So there's a little hesitation, but it wouldn't be necessarily a refusal of the call.
We go off on our journey, and we start off into the woods, and we cross the first threshold. It is very quick. You come across a dead deer. Then there's like a smell, and you got both the boys start feeling ill, and they pass out on the ground, and then the dead animal becomes a gobbledygook monster, which you'll understand when you see it. It's just like a blob, an amorphous blob of eyes and arms and legs, and it comes to life from the dead animal, and then it looks at your little unconscious bodies and runs away, and then you wake up. And for me, the boys were a duck and a bear, and I was the duck and you were the bear.
Yeah, and then for me, I saw both boys as robots, and they were distinguished by the colors of their coats. So I believe one had a green coat, the other one had a red coat.
It's just like the Pac-Man.
Just like the Pac-Man, thank you. And you don't get their names, so you don't. It's kind of like you identify with the children through other ways. So you don't identify by them by their name, but by their appearances, by their dialogue. which is an interesting way to characterize them without ever naming them.
I guess in a way it kind of forces you to first person it. Like, I'm a duck,
Yeah.
not John is a duck.
It doesn't tell you these things. There's a lot of things that are unexplained, and I think this is part of the story and part of the gameplay mechanics is that communication is very key. So it's emphasized that you need to communicate with your partner. At first, you're both seeing the different worlds, but you're interacting with the same thing. So the jumps are in the same locations. There's you see the same platforms. They're just different based on the lens that you're seeing the world through. And they don't say that right away. You know, there's some questioning. I think some people, like some of the boys, will call out something and the other one doesn't see it the same, but it's still there.
Yeah, the first thing was a body of water that I saw because my world was bright, vibrant colors with the animals. And so I had like natural stuff in there. And I came across a body of water and you just started walking. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And you were like, I'm walking. And I was like, this is water to me. And I would have died. So it was things like that you just had to call out.
Yeah. So you start to see there's differences in the environment where one person needs the other person to do something because where she can't walk across water, I didn't have water. So I could walk, grab a platform, pull it over for you, and then you can safely cross and I can pull you across.
Can you describe your environment most of the time? It was like a rundown mechanical world?
Yeah, it was almost it was almost a little apocalyptic. Looked like, you know, there had been factories and things were kind of downtrodden. Everything was mechanical and you know, kind of broken apart.
And the colors were a lot more muted and grays.
Very muted, yeah. It was a very drab environment.
But yeah, then we go straight into some puzzles, and it progresses the puzzles as you go. They definitely get more complicated. So you start with the easy stuff, easy, quote unquote, for some of us who get frustrated. But then we have our next section of the hero's journey is tests, allies, and enemies. So we're coming along, we're doing our little puzzles, and we're getting used to this world. And then we meet, to me, it was a lion and lamb parents. Those are our allies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're arguing, and you gather that they are looking for their child. And you're like, oh, can we help? And they're like too involved in their argument, and they get really mad at each other and split different ways. And you, as the kids, are like, should we go talk to them? And we split up per animal. So I went and talked to the lion, who was the father, and he told me that his child had been missing for 3 years, and he wants to move on with his life. He wants his wife to be able to move on, and he wants to have another child, but his wife has been out like every weekend searching for their kid. And he's just like, there's no hope anymore. We need to move on with our lives. And that was really sad for me.
And I didn't see any of that. So when you separated these parts, you don't get the other person's perspective. It's either you replay the game as different characters, or you as people, you know, as players, discuss what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of this section, you had to make a decision together on who to support. So in my perspective, is in the robot world, the characters just look like two different robots. They weren't as distinct as the animals.
Oh.
But so my character follows the mom to find out what happened with her. And so this is where communication becomes very important, because what the mother tells you is, again, that they're out there looking for a child. But the way she explains it is that the father is actually a stepfather. It's not the child's biological father. And all she tells you is that they're out there searching for him. She doesn't mention that it's been 3 to 5 years, however long it was. That doesn't come across. So from her perspective, all she sees is that that the stepfather is abandoning the search for her child and wants to have a new child, and so that she feels like he wants to replace her first son and move on. And to her, it seems heartless and cold, but she doesn't share with you that it's been 3 to 5 years. So it's a very different story depending on who you hear it from.
Yep. And I guess I think we convinced them to come back together or something. We just talked to them and they cooled off, and we all came back together into a group, and they're talking about, was this before the decision? I think this was before the decision that the someone's like, well, maybe you should get a divorce. It was one of the kids, wasn't it? And then the lion, the father, was like, well, maybe that is an idea. Like, he hadn't thought of it before.
So I
and the
believe
lamb gets upset.
That was the child whose parents are together, but he doesn't feel any love. I think he suggests the divorce because to him, he doesn't see the difference between the parents being together and the parents being separated because he doesn't feel the love from his parents. So he says, oh, why not just get a divorce? That's the easy solution. Whereas the other kid doesn't feel that way because he has parents that aren't together. So he already feels the pain. He understands the pain of, parents being separated. But ultimately, you do have to choose, and you both have to agree on what solution to follow.
We decided that the lion father was correct in all of his things and that they needed to move on. And Miss Lamb gets pretty upset about that, and they go off on their way arguing still.
Yeah, so they fight again. They run off. I noticed here, as far as gameplay goes, that this is where we started seeing, experiencing the puzzles where we're not interacting with the same environment, where I'm pulling blocks that you can't see or that you can't touch. This is where the puzzle's starting a little more complicated and where communication becomes more important than it was.
There was some stuff, I guess, that you would tell me that there was a rope or a hook or something that needed, or a chain. It was a chain. And I was like, I see a box. And so I would move the box and you're like, yes, that's the chain that's getting moved. So you really see different things. It was very interesting.
And I think kind of a counterpoint as far as the story goes is that the boys don't discuss what happened. The boys don't talk about what they discussed with each individual parent. So they don't share with each other what the father said or what the mother said, how long it's been, the replacing, like having a new child to replace the old child. There's no communication between them. And I think that's an important thing to point out because it causes a little bit of friction, but also emphasizes how important the communication is, where the players need to communicate, but the kids inside the game aren't necessarily communicating with each other.
You don't think that our conversation, if we're taking on the persona of these kids, was canon, quote unquote, to the story, maybe?
That's a way to look at it, yeah. But you don't get that in game. There's no dialogue between the two to say, hey, this is what the mom said, this is what the dad said. You just come together, especially we're playing it sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
And so I could turn around, if I wanted to turn around and look at your screen and see what the differences are. But if you're playing online with somebody, you may not realize at this point, if you don't know that the game is providing you with two different perspectives, then they don't express it. They haven't expressed it yet. They don't say, hey, I see all animals, or hey, I see all robots, because everything up until this point is exactly like the levels are exactly the same.
So as you said, the puzzles start getting a little more complicated and we approach the ordeal, that section. And that's when we start feeling like we're getting sick again and the screen does all this weird stuff and vibes and weirdness, and we try to turn around and leave the mountain. We're like, fuck this, we're out, bye. But we are quickly stopped by a hunter that is wearing, to me, a deer head and his white dog, who are our enemies. We gather they're our enemies.
Yeah, because they feel like they're being hunted. This hunter's coming after them. The dog starts chasing them. So they're forced to run deeper into the forest, up the mountain.
And then we come across another dog that was a dead body. Which it was weird running from one dog, and then we come across another white dog. And I was like, gross, and tried to move on. But you were like, I can put this together, because it was not necessarily a dog to you.
Well, yeah, so it was a mechanical dog, but it being a mechanical robot, the child goes, I think I can fix this because, machines can be repaired. So the care he does, he takes the pieces, puts them back together, and essentially brings this dog back to life, where in his world, it's just a machine, it's a robot. It's, once you fix it, it works again. In your perspective, it was an organism. It was it was organic. It was a bio.
It was ew, and we needed to move on.
I can't find the word.
Biological.
Yeah, it was a biological organism. So you essentially just see a dog get brought back to life, put its guts back together, its intestines reconnected, and
it was a nice dog. It just ran off.
Yeah.
It didn't try to eat us. But at that point in the puzzles, we start seeing like brown dogs, to me, that were only chasing me as the duck. They didn't give a shit about you as the bear. And so that provided an extra layer of complication where I would have to like lure the dog into certain places, and then you would have to like get to a spot and I would have to jump out of the way, because then the dog would robot for you and lift you into certain places.
As a platform, yeah.
But to me, it was the spine of the dog lifting up out of its body and pushing you to wherever. It was so weird.
So at this point, if as players you don't know that the characters are seeing two different worlds, it starts becoming very apparent that you're not interacting with the same environments. One of them's interacting with robots. One of them is interacting with
I think the
animals.
characters had called it out at that point.
I think
Aren't
that- I
you
think this
seeing
is-
something different?
I think this is when he starts putting the dog back together. That's when they make the connection that, hey, you're not. I'm seeing a robot. You're not seeing robots. Like something's wrong here.
Something is wrong here. We woke up as a duck and a bear or robots, and now something is wrong.
Which I knew about this when I bought the game. I didn't tell Kaelstrom what was going on.
No.
So she put it, I got to see her put it together in real time. I saw somebody play it and I was like, "Ooh, this would be a good game for us to play." So I knew what the twist was.
So, next step is death and rebirth. So we're going along doing our puzzles, and we come across a house. And to me, it was a milk carton, and to you, it was just a house. I got left outside and find a talking rabbit, because you went inside and like the door locks and I can't get in. Or you volunteered to go in because it was creepy. I don't remember exactly. But I get left outside and find a talking rabbit. And the rabbit tells me that the person who lives in that house is really evil and has killed his rabbit parents, and that we should run. And I'm like, but my friend is in there. And it's like almost as soon as we establish that, the rabbit is suddenly shot by a crossbow bolt, and you see the hunter. And I'm like, oh, snap. This is a bad thing. And I'm like trying to help, but also things are happening so fast that the lion and the lamb also run up and are like, oh, this is a weird incident that is happening.
The parents from before.
Correct. And lion, father, gets shot by the crossbow bolt next, and then the hunter, I am hiding behind a box. The hunter goes up to the lion and decapitates him with an axe. I almost said machete. With an axe. And then the lamb mom runs away. Now, depending on what choice you made earlier, like we chose the dad was right. If you chose that, the dad dies. If you chose the mom was right in their argument, then the mom dies and the dad lives and runs off. So that happens, and then you come out of the cabin because the hunter runs off chasing the lamb mom again. And I come out from behind the box, assess the damage. You come out of the house, and I'm like, shit just hit the fan. Can you help this rabbit like you helped this dog? Can you put this lion father back together? And you're like, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, he was dead.
He was dead.
was
So
dead.
That's the death. And I'll do rebirth after you explain what happened for you.
Okay, so back to the boy's perspective, to the boy. I played the boy who went inside the house. And so again, I'm in the robotic world. I go inside and my character starts talking to an AI that's in the building.
Beep boop.
And there are two robot bodies there. So the AI starts communicating with you, and this is where you get a little background, is actually created by the hunter. And what the AI explains to you is that the hunter used to be normal.
Did you see the hunters, as a person with a deer head on?
No, I don't quite remember. I don't think it would look that elaborate. But essentially, the AI explains that the hunter had lived up here with his wife and child. One day, his wife and child, his daughter, were sexually assaulted and murdered. I don't remember if they ever explained by who. I don't think this person ever gets caught, whoever committed this crime. But this hunter that's been chasing you essentially is this old man. The AI explains that he's gone insane. He kept the bodies of the wife and daughter, and he's been killing animals. So some of the dead animals you see along the way, he's been killing these animals in hopes that he can use their parts to put his daughter and wife back together and make them whole again, bring them back to life. which from a robotic perspective almost makes a little bit of sense.
But to me, that's like what you were doing with the animals and putting them back.
Yeah. So it's pretty dark. But essentially but that's basically what it comes down to. The boy ends up leaving. The AI tells him, no, come back. You're the only person I have to talk to because the hunter's gone insane. It kind of sucked. But that's when I come back to rejoin you. I see what's happened to the one parent. The hunter's reappeared, right? He's killed one of the parents and gone on. I think up until this point, I think that's the first human he's killed. I think that's the first human he's killed. Up until this point, he's just been killing animals, keeping their bodies, their corpses, and bringing them back to try and fix his wife and daughter that are dead.
So then we came across the hunter's body because he fell off a cliff after chasing the lamb, or he chased us again?
I think he the last time we saw him, he was chasing the parents and then fell off a cliff.
Yeah. But we come across his body, and this is the next choice you have, is whether you want to try to put him back together or not. And we chose no. Because that was creepy, and I'm not putting the hunter that was chasing us back together when I'm a duck.
Yeah. So I actually, when we were looking at the other ways that this could go, I don't remember seeing what happens if you put the hunter back together, if you repair him.
I didn't see that either.
Yeah.
So that is something you would have to let us know if you choose that.
There's a couple of endings that we'll get into. Ultimately, there's, I think, 3 different endings you can get.
Like, that was definitely death and rebirth as a section, but I'm not sure that there was really a rebirth so much as we're just evolving in our understanding of the world.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of death.
Well, just up ahead is when we meet Haru for the first time. We find Haru on the mountain, who is a little boy about the same age as the kids that you're playing as.
Well, that's part of the reward, I think, from this whole section, is that you move on and you see another boy as a human.
Oh, that's right.
And so you're like, oh, there's a boy over there. Let's go find him, because he runs away. And that's, okay, I did note that. That's when the evolution of power happens. So I think that's kind of wrapped in with the reward. The rebirth part is that to me, as a bear, head can be popped on and off, and I can carry your head around now so that you can see more parts of the puzzles. Or you have put the head on platforms so that you can see things and tell me what to do. And it was really wild.
So just to rewind, so you see the other boy, you see him as a human. So you see it's the first time you're seeing anybody as a human since the transformation happened. So we get to a part in the game where my head starts coming off. You start using it. We use it as a weight for buttons, or you need to move it around so that I see a different part of the puzzle.
I forgot you could toss it.
Yeah, you could throw the head, you could use it as a weight, but sometimes you have to take the head and rejoin it with the body later in the level.
So then the next section would be the road back, which we had tried to leave, and that didn't happen. So this is the road back section where it would normally be, but it doesn't necessarily happen in this story. But we meet Haru.
It's not a literal road back.
Who is the boy we saw in the forest, and he tells us that he ran away from his parents, and it kind of alludes to the idea that maybe the lion and lamb, for me, were Haru's parents. And we're like, oh, we might have seen your parents. And he starts crying, like, oh no, why are they here? Then the kid that only has the mom as his parent starts talking about, because they're sharing campfire stories at this point, he starts talking about how he met this man at a park, and he was playing Pac-Man, and he started to think that this man was his father because this man purposely waited for him at the park every day. And he was like, what adult would spend the time with a kid and play Pac-Man every day? And the other kids are like, I don't know about that. That's a stretch, and he might have just had a lot of Pac-Man and just wanted to trade and stuff with you, and just felt like a nice dude. And then you go to sleep and you wake up and Haru's gone.
It's a funny way to run through it. So that kid's thinking that he's recounting a tale where he thinks that was his father, and he thinks he had a connection with this parent. Haru felt like he ran away. Did he explain that he just didn't feel loved by his parents?
I don't recall why Haru said he ran away. I just remember that there's now hope for him because we all think that his parents are the ones wandering through the forest.
Yeah, so the boys explained to Haru that they think his parents are out there looking for him. Haru gets a little excited. They all kind of bond together over their collective parental trauma.
Children these days.
You wake up in the morning and Haru's gone. And so the boys decide that, all they can do is continue with their adventure, and hopefully they'll run into Haru again, who, again, they see as a human, is the only person here on this mountain who looks human to them. Okay, so they set off on their adventure. You come across a few new mechanics here. So one of the things, and this really emphasizes, again, communication, because it's a recurring kind of theme, I want to say. There are parts of the puzzle where, so we take my head off as a robot, for me, that I'm seeing. And we'll put it on moving platforms. It'll travel around. You'll carry my head around, and I can only see on my screen what's happening with the head, and you have to guide my body. You have to tell me how to move my body because I cannot see it on screen, which is kind of a fun twist to the puzzles, seeing things from different perspectives, and then also having to communicate to get through like puzzles with symbols and have to describe it a certain way so the other player can understand what you're trying to tell them.
Yeah, and there was stuff with like different levels, and I would have to tell you to push something that I was standing on and then tell you to stop so I could like drop down and stuff. And this is where I started getting really frustrated because it took us like 10 times to get through a couple of these because it was just so hard to get the timing exactly right.
Yes. So you will have to work on your communication skills with your partner.
And just do some practice runs until you all both have the steps down.
And then another mechanic that, so we're approaching the end of the game. One of the last mechanics they introduced, and I think was really important from a philosophical perspective, was the concept of cloning. And it happened with your character. Your character would step into a machine, and the body would get cloned, and so another machine, say on another platform, say you're down here and the other machine is up here, suddenly you are controlling two different bodies. They're identical bodies, so you're basically controlling yourself and a clone. And as we're progressing through the next puzzles, a lot of what happens involves one of the clones dying. So like you would have to like have a body purposely drop in the water and drown, and then that body would then become a platform.
To get past each puzzle, you had to only have one version of the duck left, and it had to be a specific one.
The way the puzzles were laid out, I don't remember if we always get back to the original or if we continue with one of the clones.
Yeah, that was the thing that you were pointing out is, are you? Do we even know which denomination or which version of you are at this point? Because it was so like, I've been cloned, and some of the puzzles you get cloned twice, so you have like two different things going.
I think at one point we had up to four versions of you trying to step through this puzzle, but you always killed them off until there was only one left. Was the only way to progress through the puzzles.
Which is, to you, it's just robot pieces, which is a little less what's happening to this person's identity and soul to me as a duck, which is still an organic being. Who am I if I am multiple things? Am I really me across all bodies as a duplicate?
Yeah. I always thought that was a fascinating topic from a philosophical point of view, is then who is the original, is the original really the person, is the new person a completely different person? Are they identical? Are they another person altogether?
I was the kid with the one mom. I think I was.
I don't remember.
Because I think that's interesting too, speaking in this philosophical section, that I see everything as animals and warm and colorful, and you're the one that sees everything as soulless and
mechanical. That would fit their worldviews and why they see different things.
Indeed.
So that was just something I wanted to touch on, not necessarily part of the hero's journey, but kind of an interesting concept that they allude to as you go through these puzzles. which would take us to the next step of the hero's journey, which is resurrection.
So
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
we've gone through more puzzles after Haru's left, and we reach the top of the mountain with the statue, and it doesn't look like the mirror to either of us. I think mine was like some weird animal, and yours was like some weird
It was like a radio
abstract
tower.
something. Yeah. We're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and one of the kids pulls out the bomb,
Sorry.
and then also puts Pokemon Green on the statue. I wonder if that changes between each playthrough.
So- I saw that as him like trying to leave his childhood behind.
Well, and because his friend doesn't have a copy, he doesn't want to play it by himself.
Yeah.
So he puts the bomb and the game on the statue, and they light it, and they stand back, and they're waiting, and we're waiting, and nothing's happening. And then the bomb is just a little firework doing its... It's not even a shoot in the sky, explode firework. It's just one of the little sparklers. So
it basically does nothing. It doesn't destroy the statue. It doesn't destroy the game. It basically just makes the kids laugh. They realize how silly what they were doing was. The whole concept of running away from home and never going back, destroying the statue. They realize it kind of puts into perspective that they were just kids on an adventure.
And that's when they turn back to kids. We don't even pass out. We just world warps, and then we turn back to the kids. And I'm laughing at my note. But then that's when the kid that has two parents reveals that he thinks, or that he started hanging out with the kid with just the mom, because he had some thought that maybe his dad was this kid's dad and that he was his brother. But nothing is really proven. It's just alluded to. And that's why he became friends with him, because he wanted to get to know his brother.
Yeah. So it's possible that they're stepbrothers, that the town mayor had an affair. Half-brothers, sorry. The mayor had an affair, and that's why the one boy's mother is alone. She's single. She's a single mother because the father is
and she works
father
at a
to somebody
diner.
else. Yeah. What is that?
I just remembered that detail.
Okay.
She works at a diner, and that's how she would have met the mayor, is she worked at the local diner.
Makes sense.
But then we see the gobbledygook for the first time since the very beginning again. And that's the amorphous blob, and it eats the human version of whichever parent was still left alive between the lion and lamb.
So it eats the parents. The kids freak out and they start running away. And when they try to run away, they realize that the only way back is through a seesaw. And the seesaw was one of the first puzzles that you come across where somebody has to lift the other one up. But in this case, only one person, it's a one-way trip. So the person who holds down the seesaw to lift the other one up, that kid will be able to get away, and the other one won't. And this is another one of those moments where you both have to agree on the decision.
You were pretty non-negotiable. You were like, I'm staying. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're not having a discussion about this.
I help Kaelstrom get away. The gobbledygook, he's a Cronenberg monster. Approaches, the kid freaks out and starts crying because he believes he's about to die. And then the boy that got away comes back, decides that if they're going down together. They throw rocks at the monster, scream at it, and it's got eyes all over its body. They start crying, and then the monster eventually runs away. And they have a moment of realization that, was that monster crying? Did it have feelings?
It didn't run away at that point.
It didn't. Oh, what happened?
No. We were throwing rocks, and we turned back into either the animals or the robots, whichever ones we were seeing. And then the gobbledygook turns into Haru.
Did we see that at that point?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then Haru says goodbye. And then we turn back into kids again, and he turns back into the gobbledygook, and he runs away. And then the parent that was on the ground is still there. Next section is Return with the Elixir.
So you go back. Oh, you flash back to the adult child, right? We see the story the way it started with the kid on the subway, or the adult on the subway, wrapping up the reminiscing that he'd been doing.
Yeah.
Kind of wondering what happened to the other kid. He talks about how the police went and investigated the murders, or the hunter. What did they find up there?
They found the one parent's dead body, they found the hunter's dead body, and they found all the animal dead bodies. And so that's when you kind of closed the loop, and the hunter was not a serial killer as I was thinking the whole time. He was only killing the animals. And he just happened to kill that one parent.
Yeah. So they kind of, the whole case is closed. They just say it was a demented old man, murdering animals up there on the mountain. Finally killed a human. Nobody ever believes the kids when they talk about what they saw, how they transformed, all of that.
And then we lived the next 20 years of our lives in sad depression because we don't talk about it, and we are kind of slowly drift apart as friends, as you do with your elementary, middle school friends. They're not your friends for life. There's rare exceptions. And you sit there on the train and think about how nothing has ever been as exciting as that adventure going up the mountain since, and your life just fucking sucks.
Yeah. I think we didn't realize until this point.
Yeah, that's when I turned around and was like, wait, you're a different kid.
So we realized that the story had been set up by the two different characters, and we just hadn't realized it. But we obviously reveal that they had both been thinking the same thing. They're both reminiscing about that adventure, about the outcome of what they saw. Each one is thinking about the other kid and wondering how they're doing now that they're adults. They're both kind of meandering through life, kind of, not happy with how they've been. But I thought that was I don't know why I didn't think that was going to happen to begin with, but it wasn't until the credits rolled that we realized.
That was kind of mind-blowing to me that they were both doing that. And then I was trying to think, did only one of them really survive the mountain? Is there only one of them left? But then they were still friends afterwards for a little bit. I don't know. It was just they had this shared trauma and never got over it.
Yeah. And to me, I think it was, again, to go back to communication, how important it is. I think they never really, because nobody ever believed them, they kind of didn't believe themselves about what happened, and they didn't really talk about it. And I think that's what caused the rift between them, and not a rift, but they slowly separated and drifted apart. I don't think they ever, took the time to talk about the aftermath.
Well, in life, and they're from totally different backgrounds. You might postulate that the more affluent kid went to college and the other kid may or may not have. Who knows where their paths really diverged.
Yeah. I just think communication is a key thing here.
But it kind of closed there. And that's how we ended it. But there is the option to do 2 more playthroughs. One of them is a full playthrough, and you do it with the same exact friend to get the achievement.
But playing as a different character.
Yes, you swap roles and you get to see the other perspectives. You can make different choices in the moments that you got to make choices that time. And at the end of your second playthrough, you're on the train and the kid gets on the phone, and whichever kid you're watching is calling the parent, either the mayor dad or the mom, his single parent mom, on the phone. And it's like, hey, do you remember this kid? Do you remember their parent? Can you get into contact with them? Because I want to talk to them, and we need to go back to the mountain. There's a friend we left there, and we need to we need to do this together and go see him.
Yeah. So at the end of the second playthrough, they start trying to find a way to reconnect.
Yep. And then it has a moment before it fades to the credits, or it was an after credit scene. I don't know. Where it did the little warpy thingy again. And you see that the train is actually the dilapidated robot world, and the kid is actually a robot. I guess they've been robots this entire time. I don't know what to make of that, since we didn't play it that way.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the second playthrough. It doesn't happen the first time. Then they return. Okay. So then that fades to black. And you can choose to start another playthrough, which is not a full playthrough, but the character profile images change, and you can clearly see them as adults instead of children that you're picking. And they return to the forest as adults, and they go through some of the beginning puzzles, and you see that there are no puzzle pieces there. You don't have to move blocks.
The seesaw's broken down.
Yeah, you don't have to move stuff because you're an adult now. You can climb the things that you couldn't reach before. You can fall down and not die. And you come across the gobbledygook again.
Yeah. So this time when you see him, it's not walking anymore. It's like a swollen mass. It's like 3 times as big as it was when you saw it as children. It just kind of collapsed there in the forest on the mountain. And I think this is important for both characters as now as adults, is that they see this and they're not crazy. They're seeing the same thing that they saw as children.
Yeah.
But here, it spits out a body or something?
No, the tongue shoots out and grabs them both and sucks it into them, or sucks them into it. And then it flashes in and out of seeing the gobbledygook versus seeing the 2 boys and Haru huddling together. So you just establish at that point that the gobbledygook has been Haru this entire time, and you're reunited with him.
I think it's kind of closure for all the characters, the spirit of Haru as well as the 2 adult boys. That they, finally came back together. They rekindled that friendship, and I think that's what allows Haru to get closure as well, is that these 2 friends were able to come back together and mend their friendship. They didn't, end up alone the way Haru did, alone on the mountain where he died.
You assume he died, I guess. I don't.
Do you not assume he died?
I guess. I don't know. It was so weird. And I'm like thinking abstractly about them going back, and did they die on the mountain the first time? Did they die the second time? Like, is it a metaphor for their childhood having been eaten and them being exposed to the adult world, and now life sucks and they haven't had the same fondness for life since? I don't know.
I think that Haru died on the mountain before the boys ever meet him. I think when he becomes the monster, he's already dead. I think when they meet Haru, it's the spirit of Haru. And they find out what happened to him, but his kind of restless spirit is out there and forces the change on the boys to bring them closer together, to force them to communicate and become friends. But he died out there alone, and so he's out there kind of haunting the mountain.
Do you think he had anything to do with the hunter's wife and child's death?
That was one I wasn't sure about. I didn't really find a connection there.
They happen to live on the mountain, and we happen to think that the hunter was an enemy.
I think that would be one I need to put more thought into to find more connections.
Maybe. And I just looked it up out of curiosity. The name Haru, its meaning is spring. And the original name of the game is much longer. It's not just Bokura. That's how it is in the US. It's a much longer name in Japan. And it roughly translates to like a different winter.
Oh, okay.
Like you both see different winters. And so I wonder if Haru being spring...
It's supposed to be rebirth.
Maybe.
Yeah. 'Cause spring is rebirth. So maybe them coming together at the end is the rebirth of their friendship.
Rebirth of their childhood. They've exited the long winter being robotic corporate slaves.
Yeah. But that was my perspective, is that Haru has been up there haunting the mountain. He has been dead. So when they go back as adults to find him, the swollen mass that is this Cronenberg monster, this gobbledygook, is just Haru's spirit becoming more and more restless. But I think the boys going back helps him find peace, because he stops being the monster, turns back into the child.
Indeed. If you have some theories after you've played the game, let us know.
Yeah, we need to hear them.
Because it was strange. It was so strange that I actually was fine with continuing playing a puzzle game, because I wanted to know what happened, even if I still don't understand what happened.
And there's not a lot out there. There's people that have played the game, and, some people with their playthroughs posted, but there's not a ton of discussion that I saw online.
Yeah,
outside
actually,
of a couple of forums.
One of the groups of friends that I watched play to see the second ending, they were like, I need like a 4-hour explanation of this. Someone please post a deep lore dive of this game.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of symbolism that we missed, or allusions to whatever, like adult life. Like there was some dark themes that they didn't overtly express, but like hinted at.
Yeah.
Some abuse and stuff like that. But it made it very interesting and kind of let you theorize yourself.
That's a wrap for this one.
Yeah. So
Bokura's Zero's Journey.
Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you'll go play it. If you like short puzzle games, if you need a co-op, kind of like It Takes Two. If you played It Takes Two, you want another co-op puzzle game to play with your friends or partner, Bokura is definitely recommended.
It's like the Limbo version of It Takes Two. If you played Limbo.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2D puzzle platformer. The next game on the list, I believe, is going to be Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Yes. So I believe that's usually 8 to 10 hours. So another short one, but also very story driven and focused on a lot of mental health themes.
Yeah. I think that'll be a fun episode to do.
Indeed.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. Trying to think of how to close it.
We out.
No.
No.
Okay.
The dogs need food.
Can you stop for like a minute? Well, thank you for joining us on this journey through Bokura. Hopefully you enjoyed.
Have great games.
We'll catch you next time.